What's up, guys? Our September Patreon rewards are finally available. If you're interested in picking up a full art Brainstorm or Muldrotha the Gravetide, you can check out all the details at patreon.com/itresolves. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Crack-A-Pack series. I hope you all had a fantastic week. It was very busy for me, but very excited to be opening up a pack of Ice Age today. Something that we've opened up a few times and actually gotten some really cool stuff, but it's an older set, so it's really fun to go back and actually open up all these older sets. Not something we normally get to do. I will say I have no clue where the rares are in this set. I've opened it maybe 3-4 times in the series, in what now, 315 episodes or something like that. But I never remember where the rare is, so we'll do the best we can. I also didn't draft during this time, so we'll certainly try to figure out what our first round draft pick would be, but I'll go ahead and say I have no clue what the good cards are and the bad cards are, so we'll do the best we can. But our first card here is Arkham's Weather Vane. I hope I'm saying everything correctly, by the way, on this set. It is an artifact for 2 mana. You can tap 2 and tap it. Target snow-covered land becomes a non-snow-covered land of the same type. Mark the change land with a counter. Also, I should go ahead and say the wording on this is ridiculous. It's just old school, but anyway. You can also tap 2 and tap it. Target non-snow-covered basic land becomes a snow-covered land of the same type. Mark the change land with a counter as well. So it basically turns lands into either snow lands or not snow lands. Seems pretty bad to me. I guess you could technically do some interesting shenanigans with like snow-covered island walk or something, or some land walk. But generally seems really bad to me and a huge mana investment, so definitely not interested in that. Black Scarab is an enchant creature for 1 white. Target creature gets +2/+2 as long as any opponent controls any black cards. That creature cannot be blocked by black creatures. So this is very much a sideboard card, obviously. You do not know if you're going to be against anything, any black decks, and so ideally you don't want to be playing this main board because you'll find yourself in a position where it literally does nothing, and you don't want that. So not a very exciting pick for me. If I was mid-pack and I knew I was in white, excuse me, I would definitely pick this up if there were less, or I'll say not very many other options. Solely because this is a good sideboard card against a black deck. It gives you an unblockable, theoretically unblockable, hopefully fairly strong creature, and that's pretty good. Glacial Wall is a 0/7 wall for 2 and a blue. If you don't know, walls cannot attack, so this literally is just a 0/7 for 3. It's going to stall the game pretty hard. Honestly, though, it's kind of the best card so far, only because it at least does something, and that's good. So there's not much to say about it. The art's cool, but it's just a wall. Can't say much more than that. Illusionary Presence, is a 2/2 for 1 and 2 blue. It has a cumulative upkeep cost of 1 blue. So what that means is after you play this, on the upkeep after you play this, you'll have to pay a blue. On the following upkeep, you add another blue to it. So it's actually going to double and cost 2 blue to keep it around. If you cannot pay that, or if you don't pay that, I should say, it does just get sacrificed. So just a heads up. But during your upkeep, it gains a land walk ability of your choice until the end of the turn. So what's cool about that is essentially you now have an unblockable 2/2. And that can really add up on damage, definitely. So as much as the cumulative upkeep cost is kind of bad, it's fine just because you get that unblockable creature. You get to choose the land walk that it gets. If you don't know what land walk does, it just means if the opponent controls, say, a swamp, and you give this swamp walk, that just means that this creature can no longer be blocked because they control a swamp. If they have an island, do island walk, mountain walks, etc., it works for any of them. And so it's not a great threat, if I'm going to be honest, but it is a threat, and I think that makes it better than any of the other cards we have so far. This also very well might be the rare. I just have no idea. And a heads up really quick, the creatures in these older sets tend to be pretty bad. That's just how it goes. A lot of things were more spell focused back in the day. So creatures in some ways are actually very valuable because if you get a good one, you're probably going to dominate the board, which is great. So this isn't amazing, but it's not terrible either. Heed, I believe, is an instant for 1 white. Prevent 1 damage to any creature or player. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. I don't love this card. It is a white draw spell, technically. And so, honestly, it's not as bad as your normal prevent damage kind of spells. So I actually would run this if I was in a white deck, but it's definitely not a reason to be in a white deck. It's one of those cards that you'd probably pick up mid to late pack and consider playing solely because it draws you a card. Other than that, it's really not worth it. Preventing that 1 damage really is not an ideal effect in Limited. At least I have found. So not super stoked on it. Flare is an instant for 2 and a red. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player, and then you also draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Excuse me. Basically the opposite of our previous card, and much better, if I can say that. It kills a creature, hopefully, an early game creature, obviously, or it deals 1 damage to the opponent, which is obviously great, and you get to draw a card. So honestly, this does a lot more. I don't know. That might be better still. I'm going to keep these two together. We'll see at the end of the pack, but Flare, not a bad one for sure. Infuse is an instant for 2 and a blue. Untap target artifact, creature, or land, and then draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. I'm thinking we hit every single card in this cycle. We're 3 out of 5, so we'll see what we get. This one, okay. You can kind of use it as like a combat trick by untapping a creature. Drawing a card, obviously, that's always going to be great. You can untap a land, but I don't think there's any lands that are actually worth untapping. It's not like you're netting mana off of this because it costs 3. Artifacts, I'm sure there's some synergies there, but obviously I'd rather have the artifact first. Honestly, this is, in my mind, just kind of a weird combat trick. I don't think it's great. I definitely don't think it's better than Flare, so don't think I would pick this. Woolly Spider is a 2/3 for 1 and 2 green. Can block creatures with flying, and if it's assigned to block a creature with flying, it gets an additional +0/+2 until the end of the turn. Honestly, this might be the best card we've seen so far. That's kind of sad, but it does actually do really, really great work for blocking flying creatures, obviously. It actually does okay work anyway. It's a 2/3 for 3, which isn't amazing, but it's not bad either. It kind of almost passes the test, right? And so I actually kind of like this card. I think I like it more than these other cards. I'm really questioning this Illusionary Presence card. But I do think I like this better than Flare just because it represents a threat and a blocker kind of all in one. Soul Kiss is an enchant creature for 2 and a black. When it comes into play, choose target creature. You can pay 1 life and pay a black to give that creature +2/+2 until the end of the turn. You cannot spend more than 3 black mana in this way each turn. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. Interesting. I love the wording on these old cards. So you can actually really boost, technically up to like +6/+6 every turn, a particular creature, but I don't love enchant creatures. I generally think they're pretty bad. They're a little bit better in these older sets, in my opinion, because removal spells are a little bit weirder and a little bit harder to come by. But I do actually just, in general, try and stay away from enchant creatures. The only reason you open yourself up for that 2-for-1, I've talked about it a lot, but if you enchant a creature and then they remove that creature immediately, you're all of a sudden down 2 cards, not just 1, so they got a lot of extra value off of you. And I don't like opening myself up to that unless there's a really, really good reason. And this isn't a bad one, but I don't love it for sure. Brown Ophi is a 1/1 for 1 green. You can pay 1 and a green, tap it, excuse me, and counter target artifact ability requiring an activation cost. Play this only as an interrupt meaning instant for any of you new only players. This, I think, is just an average 1/1. I mean, it's a 1/1 for upside, so I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great, if I'm going to be honest. It's just kind of a 1/1 for 1. It does have that ability, which I'm sure might have some relevance, but in general, it's probably just going to be a 1/1 for 1, so I don't think it's very exciting. Innervate I hope I'm saying that right. Is an instant for 1 and a blue. Tap target artifact, creature, or land, and then draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. This is interesting. So this is the exact same. Oh, this is tap. Excuse me. Not untap, you tap. So that's really cool. So this is very similar to the other card that we've seen, but it taps, it does not untap. So you can play this right before combat to tap a creature down and then draw a card. It's basically a tempo play, and I like that a lot more than the untap. That might be a little bit weird, but I feel like this is more efficient, and you still get to draw a card off of it, which I really like. So I'm in for this more than I am the other one, but still not more than the spider or the illusionary presence potentially. And so I don't think this is the pick, but I don't think this is a bad card. Circle of Protection green. It's an enchantment for 1 and a white. You can pay 1 and prevent all damage against you from 1 green source. If a source would deal damage to you more than once this turn, you can pay an additional 1 each time to prevent that damage. These Circle of Protection cards are like the single best protections against any particular color that you could find. A lot of times the like prevent damage route is really bad in limited, solely because it's based on the amount of damage being done. So like we've seen, that white card prevented 1 damage. Well, that's not really an amazing card, is it? Like, it's not winning you the game. It's stalling the game, barely. But it's really not a super effective spell, whereas this prevents damage from a green source. So if that green source is a 10/10, and you only have to pay 1 of any color to prevent all 10 of that creature's damage, well, that seems pretty good. So that can actually save you the game. That being said, it is a sideboard card. You don't know what color deck you're going to be up against, and so having a Circle of Protection green in your deck against a red deck does literal nothing. And so while this is a powerful card, I do not recommend putting it in a main deck by any means. Somebody out there probably did all of the Circle of Protections in a deck and did really well with it, and that's awesome, but I don't think in limited that's the way to go. Just my personal opinion. Don't think it's that great. Bone Shaman is a 3/3 for 2 and 2 red. You can pay a black, and any creature damaged by Bone Shaman this turn cannot regenerate until the end of the turn. So this is like an okay 4-drop, only because, again, we're looking at creatures from old Magic times. This is not supposed to be a crazy strong creature for 4. It is genuinely supposed to be a 3/3 with very limited but random upside. This puts you in 2 colors right away. I don't love that. The regenerate thing is a little bit more relevant in this set and like a lot of the older sets than it is probably now. Normally we only see it on like 1 or 2 creatures maybe in a set. Usually, honestly, none. In older sets, we saw it a little bit more often. Still not a lot, and so it is very, very random upside. But, I mean, it's an okay 4-drop. It's not as good as the cards we already have for sure, though. Snowfall is an enchantment for 2 and a blue. Again, we're seeing that cumulative upkeep cost of 1 blue. Islands may produce an additional blue when tapped for mana. This mana is usable only for cumulative upkeep. That's kind of interesting. It helps pay for itself. Snow-covered islands may produce either an additional 2 blue or an additional 1 blue when tapped for mana. The mana is usable for only usable for cumulative upkeep. So this doubles your mana if you're in blue, but it also doubles the opponent's mana. Just worth noting there. Technically, it can kind of triple your mana if you've got snow-covered lands, specifically islands. Also, the wording here is a bit weird for anybody, especially new to Magic. Mana burn was a thing back in the day. If you don't know what that is, it just means that if you had extra mana at the end of a phase or a turn, that however much extra mana you had was dealt to you as damage. So say you tapped 3 extra lands, you were dealt 3 extra damage. So it was actually really bad to have too much mana back in the day. Now that's not the case, obviously. Something like this, you would always want to tap for extra mana. And so as a weird card to evaluate, I feel like it's a bit like all in. You're kind of, I'm going blue and that's it. I don't think I would do that. I think I would rather have just stronger creatures. But this might be a great card and I'm just misevaluating it. I honestly don't know because, again, I didn't play during this time. Extra mana is always good, but I don't think I would take this here, especially because all it can be used for is cumulative upkeeps. And so while that's fine, you're only paying for upkeeps. That's it. It can't actually produce extra mana to play things, and so I think for that reason it's quite bad. Krovikin Fetish. Enchant creature for 2 and a black. Draw a card at the beginning of the upkeep after the turn this is played, and then target creature gets +1/+1. That is surprisingly a little bit better than a normal enchant creature because it does replace itself, but it is only a 1/1 boost for 3 mana. I don't like that. Definitely not the card I'm interested in. For me, it's between the Spider and the Illusionary Presence. The Spider's solid. Let's just go ahead and say. That's like a safe pick, regardless. The Illusionary Presence, a bit weirder because you're going to be tying down a lot of your mana, and if you can't pay for it, it just dies. And so I don't love that. I think my safe pick would be Woolly Spider. If you're interested in going for the Presence, go for it. But I think my safe pick is going to be the Spider. Feel free, of course, to let me know in the comment section how wrong I am on this pack, because honestly, I probably am. And that's okay. I'm happy to have that conversation, but that's just my evaluation of it. If you enjoyed this video, though, please make sure to leave a like or a comment down below. And as always, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our awesome content. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next Crack-A-Pack episode.